In this video, I want to talk about the ultimate hack for changing your behavior. And it has to do with sequencing. So if you've read the book Atomic Habits, or you've read any books on goal setting or habit formation, the sequence is almost always wrong, which is funny because a lot of times it's mentioned in these books, and it doesn't make the books less valuable. This will all make sense once I explain it to you, but I want to talk to you guys about the ultimate hack for making changes that last forever. And let's just jump right in. So changing behavior is a sequence. I already kind of mentioned that. So it's a sequence, and there's a series of things that need to happen sequentially in order for lasting change to happen. And so most people are missing the first step. So if you look at the book Atomic Habits, I love the book. The book's great. James Clear is a fantastic author. He has an incredible story personally, and then the book itself is very valuable. But the problem with the book, in my opinion, is it jumps into steps 2 and 3 without looking at step 1. So this is what I was kind of mentioning earlier. One of the ironies about this to me is, like, even in the book Atomic Habits, the quote is mentioned. This is a quote from that book, from James Clear. True behavior change is identity change. Well, but then the rest of the book kind of goes into habits, and it does mention pieces of identity, but a lot of it's about habits and chunking them down and chunking them up and breaking them into bits and how to do them and how to not buy Oreos and have them in your pantry so you don't go and eat them and all this other stuff, right? Making it easier to do the habits, but then it doesn't really spend so much time talking about identity. And this quote is so true. True behavior change is identity change. Well, if that's true, let's talk about identity. There's a precursor to this. So in my own words, behavior does not change until the identity changes. Habits are great. They're fantastic. They're important, but they're not the first thing. They are not the cornerstone. And so in essence, they're the process, right? So identity, the why, which we're going to get into, that is like the core thing. I'll talk about that in a second. But habits are the process. They are the means by which we do the thing. They are not the means and the end themselves. The why, the what, the why is the critical piece of identity. The why to do something. The why is the cornerstone of why anything happens. It's the catalyst. It's the reason. It's the ignition. It's the thing that sets the process in motion, right? Like, if you don't have a strong why, the habits aren't going to stick. Period. So the process doesn't matter if the why isn't strong. That's why I'm mentioning this. The why is the first piece of this. I love this quote from Friedrich Nietzsche, which is really powerful. It says, "He who has a strong enough why can bear almost any how." Again, this is from Nietzsche, and the quote is, "He who has a strong enough why can bear almost any how." So if the why is strong enough, you'll figure out the how. The how is the process. The how is the habits. The how is the stuff you do. If the why is strong enough, all the other stuff starts to fall into place. If the why is powerful, I think there's multiple ways that the why becomes more powerful, but habits are the how. Breaking things into smaller bite-sized pieces and systematizing, all of that's valuable, but that's what the habits are. They're the how. They're the systemizing, the process of breaking things into pieces, making them bite-sized for us to be able to do a thing repeatedly. But they, in and of themselves, don't carry motivation. The motivation comes from the why. The momentum comes from the why. So some examples I have, like, you're not bad at remembering someone's name. You just don't have a strong enough reason for why you need to remember that person's name. Like, for the majority of times, right? You go to a party, someone says their name, you try to remember it, you're going to forget it. If you had a strong enough reason to remember that person's name, you would. And yes, there are things you can do. You can attach a larger conversation to it, say, what's your name mean? Where did you get your name? And you'll have some better recall for it. But again, it's like, begin with the why. Talking about a fear of failure, right? Like, you don't have a fear of failure. You have a weak why. The problem is having more fear over trying the thing than failing the thing. That's kind of confusing, so I'm going to say it again. The problem is having more fear over trying than failing. And again, I think that comes from a lack of why. Going back to Friedrich Nietzsche's quote, it's like, a strong enough why can bear almost any how. You won't have a fear of failure if you have a strong enough why. If you know why you're doing it, and if it's powerful enough for you, that you'll figure out anyhow. It's the same with ineffective salespeople. I wrote this quote recently on Twitter, which was, the quickest way to receive a no in sales is to provide the price, which is the how, before you uncover the value, which is the why, right? When you're talking to someone, the value of that thing to them, that's the reason why they would buy it. The value is why they would buy a thing. If you're going to talk about how they buy it, the price, the process, that deal is already dead. So these are just 3 examples on which having a why is so fundamentally, critically important. And I've read so many books and seen so much content on this. To me, these talking about truths that are self-evident, this is self-evident to me. Like this is observations that I've made just living in the world. So I hope these help you. I hope that you can start to figure out your why before you have your habits. If you want to stop smoking, if you want to build a company, if you want to do anything with a degree of momentum, you have to get the why down first before you figure out the how, the pieces, the parts, the puzzles. Habits are great. I'm not discounting them. They're just not the first step. Hope this helps, and I'll see you in the next one.